Since then, we've been trying to unpack slowly and trying to make it feel like home, feel like us. But this isn't where the story ends. Like I said, in our previous tenancy, we had a very difficult landlady. I think she's probably narcissistic or something like that. I have narcissistic, abusive, toxic parents, so I have a lot of experience with that, and I can really spot the red flags very quickly. So we've had problems with her from the start. I'm not going to go into detail about that now, but this is not, we knew she was very difficult, and that's a huge euphemism. And we knew as soon as we said that we were going to leave that she was going to make a huge deal out of it and try and make it as hard on us as possible, because she thinks we are out to get her or something. Like she's paranoid, and she thinks we're constantly trying to attack her. She wants her revenge, basically. She wants to make us pay for not letting her be entitled and break the law and stuff. And before you say like this is harassment, you should do something about it, we tried to contact the council, the citizen advice bureau, anything we could in England that wasn't like something we had to pay for, and nobody cared. And everyone was like, I'm sure it's not that bad, basically the same exact reactions I got when I first started telling people about my toxic parents. That whole thing of like, I'm sure they love you deep down, but like for landlords instead of, we were dealing with that stress, dealing with the move, and then on top of that, having to deal with her, who's trying to create problems where there aren't any. We were like, oh my God, we've been using ChatGPT to do the interactions, like all the interactions with our landlady for weeks now, months. It's been such a lifesaver. I can't even begin to express. Like, we don't even have, at this point, we don't even read her messages because they're just so stress inducing and so violent. We just put them straight into ChatGPT and ask him like, should we respond anything? What should we respond? And like we analyzed all of her messages and asked ChatGPT how to respond, because we've developed a lot of trauma because of her. I already had trauma from my parents, and like she's basically re-traumatized me, and my partner also has trauma because of that. So whenever we get a message from her, we have such a visceral anxiety reaction, like a fight or flight, adrenaline rush type of thing that's very uncomfortable. And so ChatGPT has taken so much mental load out of us, from us. Also, like, we don't always know how to best respond. We don't always see all of our manipulation, and ChatGPT sees right through it. And we sometimes get a bit defensive, or we fuel her manipulation. So ChatGPT is there to tell us, like, this is how you should respond. And like then we adapt the message, and so we've been gray rocking her a lot and being very factual and very neutral and non-emotional and very professional in the way that we respond to her, only through email. We don't talk to her in person or over the phone, and she hates it. Like most narcissists, because she feels like she's lost control over us, or like her manipulation isn't working anymore. So she's been trying to create problems. She's the type of person who will try to convince you that you've done something wrong even though you haven't, and like trying to play with your mind, trying to make you feel guilty. Or like she does a lot of projection as well. To protect ourselves, we've been doing everything as transparently and as legally and as responsibly as possible. And we've been documenting everything and keeping her informed on everything. One of those things was the return of the keys. So she lives in Austria. She's quite far from the UK. We told her like we're vacating 2 weeks before the end of the tenancy, we'll send you the keys by post, by, tracked post, which is the safest method. It's quite standard procedure. And then she was like trying to be like sneaky, and she was like, oh, just leave them with the neighbors, blah blah blah. And we were like, no, we're not going to do that because it's not very professional. We don't want, because we know she's sneaky. She's been very sneaky in the past, and we knew she was going to try something, like, because she isn't going to do the inspection until the 17th of September, which is probably a move on her part. We knew that she was going to try to get someone else into the house before then without our knowledge. And so we were like, no, we're not leaving the keys with the neighbors. This is not professional. It's not a secure, well-documented method. We'll send them via tracked delivery and stuff. And she was fine with it. And then after we did that, she tried to get her handyman into the house without our knowledge, even though we're still tenants. We're still technically tenants. She was trying to break the law by entering the property without our knowledge and our consent, but she's above the law, right? And so the thing is, and that's where it gets crazy, man, she doesn't have one of the keys to unlock the door. There's basically 2 locks. Most doors in the UK, they lock automatically. Like when you shut them, there's a lock that, it locks automatically. So there's that lock, and then there's another lock at the bottom for which we were provided a key at the beginning of the tenancy. So we were using it because it's like an added security, for the house. And during the tenancy, at one point, she was like suggesting that we don't need to use that lock. And we figured she probably doesn't have the key for that lock for some reason. And so she was telling us not to use that lock so that she can get into the house if she needs to, which is completely illegal. I'm not going to try explaining all the shitty stuff she's tried to do during the tenancy because I would be talking for hours. But basically, I think what happened is when we left the house, obviously we locked the door securely, which is the responsible thing to do as tenants. And then we sent the key to her from France because we didn't have time to do it in the UK. And then everything was fine. We kept her updated, and she was behaving. And then 3 days ago, she tried to get her handyman into the house without telling us. And we got a message from the handyman being like, hey, your landlady told me to come do some garden maintenance, and I can't seem to be able to open the door. Like, did you lock the bottom lock? Like, where did you put the key? And we were like, listen, we kept our landlady updated on everything. We didn't know you were coming today. We locked the door. We've sent the keys to her. She knows everything. And then we get an email from our landlady being like, how dare you add a new lock to the door, blah, blah, blah. Like, in her paranoid state, which she often is. Anytime something doesn't go her way, she freaks out and blames everyone around her. So she was like saying that we added a lock to the door. We were like, bitch, we used the lock that you gave us the key. You gave us the key to that lock at the start of the tenancy. We just locked the door. That's just the responsible thing to do, first of all. Second of all, we had no idea that guy was coming. Third of all, we're still tenants, so you should let us know when someone's coming. It's literally in the law. And everything. And she was using an argument that she's used before, which is part of her manipulation, which is just like, the garden is in desperate need of maintenance, which it isn't. And the funny thing is, she was like, we need to water the garden and stuff. It was raining at that time. I was like, bitch, the garden doesn't need water. It's 19 degrees and it's raining. There's literally a thunderstorm right now in the UK. Like, what are you talking about? But obviously, it's all part of her manipulation. She was fine as long as she thought she had control of the situation and she could get in and out of the house how she wanted. And she knew we were going to be far from there. So we weren't going to do anything about it. So it ended up working in our favor because when we locked the door, we didn't think anything of it. Obviously, that was the responsible thing to do from us. And afterwards we realized we were right to do that, because she would have completely disrespected our boundaries otherwise. She would have asked the handyman to go inside the house. He could have gotten things dirty inside the house or whatever, who knows. And then she could have blamed that on us and tried to deduct money from our deposit and stuff. So we were glad we locked the door, but that means like she's completely beside herself, because she doesn't have control over the situation. She doesn't have the key. Her handyman doesn't have the key. So until the keys are delivered and she does the inspection, like, she's not going to be able to do anything about the property, and that pissed her off. And then she got really violent, started to attack us personally and project things on us, talking about us being arrogant and like this is her house, and like, you know, like just entitled narcissistic bullshit. If you know, you know. But that has been very triggering for us, obviously. It's reminded me of a lot of past trauma with my family. It's been difficult for my partner as well. It's got to a point where we're like looking into legal stuff that we can do and like talking to solicitors and stuff, because it's getting to a point where it's like it's been affecting our mental health negatively for a long time, but right now it's getting ridiculous, and she's already threatening to make illegal deductions from our deposit. Yeah, it's not great. So that has been an added stress that has unfortunately prevented us kind of from enjoying being in the new house and settling down and stuff and relaxing. Like I said, her last message, I didn't even read it. My partner was like, don't read it, it's so triggering. He just directly put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT was like, she's just being fucking manipulative. She's just being manipulative and toxic, and like there's no need to respond. So we didn't. But we're just very nervous about what's gonna happen next. And like, we know like there's the law, obviously, that's on our side, because did I mention she didn't do an inventory at the start of the tenancy, and obviously she knows that's not in her best interest. So the law is on our side, and obviously our deposit is protected through an official, you know, deposit protection scheme. So as soon as she tries to deduct anything illegal from our deposit, we'll dispute it and stuff. We'll do the necessary steps, but it's just very taxing having to deal with such a toxic character, you know? So we've been trying to find a solution, maybe get some kind of mediation going, where that would be the ideal scenario, would be that we wouldn't need to interact with her directly anymore. I don't know if it's possible. It would probably cost a lot. But at this point, we're like looking at the financial cost versus the cost on our mental health. And I don't think we realized how much trauma this landlady caused us until we got here. Our current landlord here in this house is really nice. He's a healthy person, and I think we forgot what that was like to have a healthy, normal landlord. Where I really noticed our trauma was that we immediately assumed that he was trying to, you know, like we were overly protective of ourselves because we had that trauma of like, he's gonna create problems like she is. But we realized he's not the same type of person at all, and he's like really reasonable. When we did so like a couple of days ago, we did the inventory thing, where we basically he sent us like an inventory, and we wrote down everything that wasn't on the inventory that we noticed in the house, and then he came and did like an inspection of the house, checked everything. As like, he was really reasonable about it. He was like really objective. He was like, yeah, that's not in good condition, I'll get it fixed. He's already like made appointments with people to come fix things around the house. Like, he's a good landlord. But our initial reaction, our default reaction was to assume that he was going to be toxic like her, which is a trauma response. So we were like, how? Wow, she affected us more than we thought initially. So we're gonna have to do some healing. But yeah, so we've been trying to deal with that. I personally made it so that when I get a message from her on my phone, I don't get notified. Unfortunately, we can't block her yet. Legally, we have to stay in contact with her, but we only respond when there's an actual factual need to respond. Otherwise, when it's just manipulative stuff, we don't respond, which is already what I did with my parents until I blocked my mom recently. And yeah, I've muted her notifications so that I don't know she contacted us until I actually go looking for the message. That's been tricky, and I'm really looking forward to the point where we finally get our deposit back, and then we can block her on everything. That's gonna be one of the best days of my life. But in the meantime, we have to deal with that emotionally, and it's not easy. As I said, our landlord came to do the inventory. The day before that, we had to take the cats to the vet, because basically when you come to France with animals, we had to do a bunch of stuff before that, get an animal certificate and stuff. Within 7 days of arriving in France, you have to take your animals to the vet so he can check their documentation and then start the process of registering them with the government and stuff, so they're not illegal importation. So we had to do that, and they also needed vaccines. So that was also a pretty intense social interaction that lasted at least half an hour, maybe more. The vet was really nice, but it was just very intense. And with all the masking and stuff. And then the following day we had the inventory, and by that point I was just so emotionally drained from everything. About half an hour before the inventory, I told my partner I can't do this. I broke down in tears, and I was like, I can't do this. So I can't do the social interaction right now. I can't mask. I don't have it in me. But we had to do the inventory. It was in our best interest, so we found a solution. We found an accommodation, which I was really thankful for. My partner was like, I'm fine, I can handle it. You just sit down with your iPad and you pretend to be working on something. And that worked wonders, because I could be in the same room, listen to them, but also not have to interact, because I was pretending to work on something. And yeah, I know technically it's lying, but to me it's not I wasn't doing anything harmful. I was just accommodating my needs. So I don't mind it. And our landlord was very understanding and stuff, and he was really nice. So that was really good, because I didn't have it in me to do the whole, and it lasted around an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. So I definitely couldn't have lasted that long. I'm so thankful to my partner. I wouldn't have been able to do this move without him. Like I said, this is the most disabled I've felt since my diagnosis, because I've been so overwhelmed with the changes and the social aspect, administrative stuff. Here in France, you have to do everything over the phone. It's very outdated. You don't do a lot of stuff online, and when you do, it doesn't work very well, and you end up having to call them anyway. It's very much a phone culture here, and there have been times these past few days where I had to make a phone call, and then I ended up bursting into tears and I couldn't do it. So in those moments, it's very helpful to have someone else with you who can do these things when you can't do them, and vice versa. I take care of some things that my partner can't take care of, things like that. Yeah, it's been overwhelming, and it took me it's been 9 days since we arrived, and I'm still kind of all over the place. Of course, change isn't easy for autistic people. And I know I always struggle with moves and stuff like that. I knew it was going to take me a few weeks to get settled. In the past, I would have tried to push through the discomfort. And for example, like the TV, and like I said, having a living room space where I can watch my comfort movies and watch my videos on autism. It's an essential part of my day. It's one of the things that keep me sane. In the past, I would have been like, well, it's not a necessity, you know, it's not urgent. And even other people would have told me that as well. I would have been like, let's just set up the living room. I know like it's not ideal, but like let's do it now. And then people would have been like thinking that I was being difficult or being a spoiled brat or whatever. I don't know, I'm not finding the right word in English, but and now both my partner and I know that it's not me being difficult, it's actually like an essential part of my, like everyone likes to have a living room with a TV set up. For me, it's not just that I like it, it's like a necessity for my well-being and my regulation and my way to function on a daily basis. So we took care of that, probably not as soon as we should have, but we took care of that as soon as we could, and it's already made a big difference. But it's definitely been difficult finding a new routine. I had a pretty well-oiled routine in our previous house, especially the nighttime routine, evening routine was a really important part of my day, and I had got it to a point where it really made me feel safe and allowed me to really unwind and relax from all the stress from the day, and fall asleep at night. And of course, the move disturbed all that. It's not like I have to rebuild a routine that is adapted to the new place and stuff. So I don't really have a routine yet. And it's definitely, I can definitely feel that it's affecting me. My mood hasn't been great. I've had a lot of anxiety, and yeah, I don't really know how to function. Like I can do laundry, I can make food, I can handle, you know, ordering groceries online. Like I've been doing stuff, but it's been difficult, and my mood hasn't been great because I feel like I don't know what to do with myself in my downtime when I'm not doing these things. And like, yeah, I'm just struggling to find that comfort that routine provides, or like setting up the house in a way that is comforting. So I'm still working on that. Obviously, it's only been 9 days. Having my diagnosis really helped me understand some of my difficulties and struggles during this move, and it's really allowed me to accommodate myself better. But I've definitely had moments where I felt a bit desperate. I was like, I wouldn't have been able to do this without my partner, and I really feel disabled right now. I really struggle right now. It made me feel pretty depressed because I thought this is gonna be my life. For the rest of my life, I'm gonna struggle with these things. Yes, I can find ways to accommodate myself, but I'm always gonna struggle like that, you know? I'm always gonna be autistic. Whereas before I was diagnosed, I was like, there was always this hope of like, if I do this, if I do that, if I fix my social anxiety, if I fix my trauma, if I do that, it will get better, it will get easier. And now I'm like, no, I'm always gonna be autistic. I'm very proud of being autistic, and it's a part of myself that I wouldn't change, but there are days where I'm like, man, I wish I wasn't autistic. It looks so easy, and I know it's an oversimplification, and neurotypicals have their struggles as well, but there are moments when, you know, when a simple social interaction that doesn't seem to cause any trouble to autistic people feels like my world is about to end. When that happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't have to deal with this, you know? And I think that's normal. It's normal to experience this. It doesn't mean I don't like my autism and I wish it wasn't there. I think it's normal that we experience these things from time to time. It's valid. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of that. There's definitely been some depression symptoms going on, which I totally expected. That always happens when I move to a new place. It was one of the reasons why I struggled so much while my partner and I were traveling across Europe a couple of years ago, because I was experiencing all of this, but instead of like it being every couple of years, it was every single month. It was really hard. So yeah, it's been great understanding myself better, being able to accommodate myself better. But it's still hard. It's always going to be hard, you know? But yeah, it's been weird being back in France, because let's say that the reasons I left France 7 years ago, without mentioning the obvious reason, which is that I left my family, but like other than that, like all the other reasons why I left France, these haven't changed. It's not that I forgot about them, but I've been really reminded of them since coming here. And I didn't know this region, I didn't know this city that we're in. It's a different region than the one I grew up in. But it's very much the same culture. It's very much how I remember it, how I remember people being, how I remember the administration being. It's been a cultural shock coming back here after spending 5.5 years in the UK. The administration here is so bad. Like anytime you have to do anything, subscribe to anything, start a contract of any kind, everything is made to be so difficult and complicated here. And I didn't miss that. And like having to do everything over the phone, and like all the social interactions involved, and even just, I don't know how to explain it, but the way people interact with each other really gets under my skin. And it sounds so bad, but I don't know if it's an autism thing. I don't know if it's a trauma thing, but I really struggle with all that. I get that uncomfortable, icky feeling of like, ugh, this is not where I'm meant to be. It's not like we're planning to live the rest of our lives here, spend the rest of our lives here. It's very much it's a type of transition. My partner was tired of being in the UK. He wanted a better climate, which we're gonna get here. It was time for a change, but we didn't know where else to go just yet. So France was a good middle ground, if you will. But yeah, I definitely don't think I'm gonna spend the rest of my life here. And I don't have anything against France. I don't have anything against French people. I just don't feel like it suits me. It doesn't suit my personality, doesn't suit my needs, doesn't suit my autism. It's just personal preference. I know that there's a lot of advantages and benefits in living in France. The free healthcare and education, all that stuff is just, yeah, it's just not the most autism friendly place to be. Yesterday we went into town to grab a drink. Just the walking around, and it's gonna sound really extreme, right? Maybe not. If you're autistic, maybe you'll get it, but just the walking around the streets, wandering through the city, sitting down at a terrace, having a drink, like getting into a shop or a restaurant, just regular day-to-day city stuff. I don't know how to explain it. It's just and again, I don't know if it's to do with France, I don't know if it's to do with my trauma, but I just feel 100 times more perceived than I do in any other country I've been in. The only other places I've felt like that was maybe places like Italy or some places in Eastern Europe. I've never been outside of Europe, so I don't know. Compared to the UK, like in the UK, I felt so comfortable. I felt so comfortable walking around, just existing around other people in public places, basically. That's what I'm getting at. It's so uncomfortable here in France, and that just, of course, like since I haven't lived here in 7 years, I've been here a few times since I moved away, like on vacation and stuff, or passing through, but like living here again is like all that discomfort is being thrown back into my face, and I'm really feeling it, and it's really making me not want to leave the house at all. which is fine because it's a pretty comfortable house, and we can easily get our groceries delivered and stuff, so we don't have a vital need. And also, like, I don't need to leave the house for any particular reason, like for work or anything like that. So, and same for my partner. So we already know this is gonna be like our safe place, our cocoon, our own little bubble. And we're only gonna go into town maybe once or twice a week at most. I don't think I could handle more than that. Like I said, like I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why I feel that way, but I just feel so incredibly perceived here in France. And it might have to do with the fact that this is where I grew up, this is where I went to school, this is where I spent my childhood and teenage years, and this is where I got bullied, this is where I got ostracized for my differences. Maybe there's some of that and it's not completely objective, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the way I feel, you know? And so, yeah, it's very difficult for me. Just walking around, just existing around other people in public places is just a lot. So yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to deal with. My partner went back to work today, and I'm finally finally. Sounds like I was tired of spending time with my partner. That's not what I mean at all. But you know how we autistic people often need alone time, and I haven't been getting a lot of that since we moved here because my partner wasn't working and stuff. And it's been amazing spending time together. But I also needed my alone time. So I'm glad I'm finally getting that. I'm finally able to sit down and record this video. I'm going to continue trying to build a routine, trying to settle down, finishing all the administrative stuff I have to do, which involves inevitable phone calls, which I've been trying to mentally prepare for. On a more positive note, it's amazing being here. The food is, even though it's reminding me a lot of things I don't necessarily want to be reminded of, like my childhood, or like the food I ate, you know, with my family and stuff, because it's the same brands I grew up with. Even though there's some of that, there's also the fact that the products are a lot better quality than in the UK. The fruits and veg are a lot fresher, they're a lot tastier. There's a lot of food products that we couldn't get back in the UK. But the downside is that France isn't vegetarian friendly at all. Most of the time, the vegetarian options are just cheese. So if you're a vegan, you might as well just not move to France, honestly, because you're not going to be able to eat out much. And even cooking at home, like the plant proteins, it's a struggle. While I was in the UK, I was able to cut down a lot on my animal protein intake, like dairy, eggs and stuff, which I was really happy about, because my ultimate goal is to get as close as possible to a vegan diet for my own personal beliefs, you know, because I don't support animal cruelty, and also it's not great for your health. And I've had to go back to eating more cheese and like eggs that I didn't consume much anymore, because there's just, at this point right now, I haven't been able to gather a wide enough variety of plant-based proteins, if you will. And some of the products that I absolutely loved back in the UK, like the Typhoon smoked tofu and the Beyond Meat burgers and sausages and stuff like that, and nutritional yeast and stuff like that, it's near impossible to find here in France. So we're gonna have to, in the UK we were able to just order these from like with the rest of our groceries from the same place, you know. Here we're gonna have to find these on like specific websites, specific vegan websites. Of course it's more expensive, and we're gonna have to order in bulk. Like, it's just, everything's more complicated when you're a vegetarian in France compared to the UK, which is amazing for vegetarian food. But other than that, yeah, the food, fresh produce tastes great. and there's some nostalgic element to being able to eat the same foods I ate when I was younger. And the house is great. There's a really nice old original wood flooring, which I love. There's a lot of greenery where the garden is beautiful, the terrace, like we're gonna have a great time here. There's a forest nearby. Like the city itself is really beautiful. It's got some historical flair to it. So yeah, I know we're gonna be happy here. It's just right now, because I'm still recovering from the move and still settling down, I'm not yet able mentally to really fully enjoy all this, because I need my routine, I need my comfort things, you know. But, you know, once I get settled down and once the whole thing with our landlady is over and we don't have to deal with her ever again, I'm gonna feel a lot better. And then it's gonna be fall, which is my favorite season. And then I'm gonna be able to decorate for Halloween, and then we're gonna be able to decorate for Christmas, and it's gonna be amazing. And we're gonna spend time with my in-laws here, and just there's a lot of things I'm looking forward to. Obviously, it's just my mood hasn't been great because of many reasons. My mental health just has been struggling a bit, which I totally expected. Actually, in many ways, I think this move went better than I expected it to go, especially considering I'm still in autistic burnout. I've had one night here where I was really, I don't know what was happening, but I was really struggling. Like, I felt really restless. I guess I had too much energy, too much nervous energy in my body. And I was scared of, and I know that's not very rational, right? But I was scared of getting out of bed because I didn't want to wake up my partner, and I didn't want him asking questions. Then I would have to explain, blah, blah, blah. So I stayed in bed, and I was like, this bed is a lot smaller than what we had in the previous house. And we were so lucky to have such a big bed, but I got really used to it, and I really liked to have so much space in the bed because I struggle with, you know, physical touch and stuff. And so it's been a real struggle adapting back to this, having this smaller bed. And that night my partner was like kind of invading my side a little bit, so I had a really small space in the bed, and I felt really claustrophobic. Felt like I needed to move my body. I probably needed to stim. I almost I think I pulled on my hair and stuff, which I don't do anymore. But like, I really needed to I don't know, I wanted to bite myself. I wanted to squeeze things real hard. Like, I really needed to get that energy out of my body, but I was stuck in that bed, not wanting to wake up my partner, and that was a struggle for a couple hours. But yeah, also something else I wanted to mention, and then I'll end this video. But because my diagnosis is still kind of recent, I've noticed that I sometimes struggle, especially when I'm not in my routine, when I'm not in my daily life. I really struggle to listen to my needs and know what my body needs, you know? That's also because of a lifetime of not listening to myself and not accommodating my needs. But for example, before the move, I had gotten better at stimming and really focusing on my special interests and my comfort things to regulate myself. With the move and having to handle all of everything, it being very overwhelming, I kind of forgot about all that, or it's almost like I forgot that I was autistic and I had specific needs, and I went back to functioning like a neurotypical, especially in those really stressful, overwhelming moments during the move. And so I forgot to stim, and I forgot to focus on my special interests or my comfort things, and forgot to look after myself, and would push myself really hard and not take enough breaks. And then my partner would be like, you're pushing yourself too hard, you need to, you know, slow down. And then I would realize and allow myself a little bit. But like I really noticed that in those intense moments, I really struggle to remember that I'm autistic, and so I have needs, you know? And especially the stimming aspect of it, I still don't have like that reflex more than before. There's still a lot of times when I catch myself being very still and being like, oh, I would feel better if I moved. I don't really experience that thing that I've heard a lot of autistic people talk about, which is like they'll start doing really big stims and suddenly they feel a lot better. It's not that dramatic for me. I wish it was. But I don't feel it as much. But I definitely rock more than I used to. Not just like the classic rocking back and forth, but I'll be lying on my side and rocking myself side to side, or you know, clenching my muscles or shaking my muscles or things like that. That I do a lot pretty spontaneously. I'm still figuring all that out. It's a long process. But yeah, I have to really make a conscious effort of reminding myself that I need certain things, like having my, like for several days I didn't have my fidget toys within easy access, and I would have benefited from them. Things like that. One day we went out into town and I forgot to grab my loop earplugs, and I would have needed them. Which before the move I never left the house without my loop earplugs. It's little things like that I have to reincorporate into my new routine. But yeah, I think I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about. If I forgot anything, I'll add it in post-production. But this is a very long video and I'm gonna end it here. Obviously it makes sense that it's so long because I haven't filmed anything in over a month. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to making, hopefully, posting videos more regularly now that the move is behind me. I can say that. It feels great. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and leave a comment and share this video if you think it would help somebody else, and subscribe if you like my content. I forgot what my outro was. I have a Ko-fi page if you'd like to support my channel monetarily, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.